Hey, so as we learn to shift our focus and experience various altered states, we're going to sometimes be confused between our inner experience, our inner world, and our outer world. And navigating this confusion is going to be challenging. So imagine that your focus at first is going to be somewhat random. So, just as let's say you're an entrepreneur, and at one point everything was a shiny object. And then after a while, you begin to notice which of the shiny objects are actually going to be useful for you and which aren't. You develop discernment. So the same happens when we are developing our focus, developing our awareness. At first, it's going to be a sea of stimulation. We're going to have the stimulation that comes from our inner world, our inner experience, and the stimulation that comes from our outer world. And we may not be able to tell the difference. This is super duper important when you're starting to notice your feelings, for instance. I am an empath. What that means is I literally feel other people's feelings. I believe that we are all designed to be highly empathic, but social conditioning causes us to lose that ability to be empathic. So, neurologically, physically, psychologically healthy mothers and babies, neurologically typical, psychologically typical mothers and babies are going to naturally be empathic. They are literally going to feel one another's feelings. So, what we talk about the mother and infant bond is actually the result of extreme, very highly developed empathy when that bond exists. Many of us are going to lose that empathic ability, and we are going to become fairly closed off. Some people will become closed off. Some of us are going to stay very empathically oriented, very open. And when we do that, we may get confused about whether we're feeling our feelings or feeling someone else's feelings. I remember the first time it was really clear to me that I was running someone else's feelings. I had gone through a number of years of extreme anxiety. I was a mess for a while there. But I slowly began to come out of that, and I was no longer experiencing as much anxiety. I was making headway with realizing what caused the anxiety, and I'll just tell you really quickly right now what I decided for myself was that um, two things caused the anxiety. Either I was really going in the wrong direction and I shouldn't be doing whatever it was I was doing, or I was really going in the right direction and I needed to do what I was doing, but it was outside the box of my previous existence. So I decided that either one could trigger my anxiety. Anyway, I also learned to stop and breathe more often because we all hold our breath. I just found out that there's something called email apnea that researchers have discovered. When we look at an email and we open it to read it, we apparently stop breathing. So I need to remember that and breathe when I look at email. You might want to do that too. Thank you for joining me, by the way. So I went to a bar. I stopped into a favorite bar. I used to drink beer. Now I can't because I'm gluten free, but it was a brew pub. And uh, I sat at the bar, and there were a lot of people at the bar. Most of them were men. And a woman came in. She had unbuttoned her blouse, so it was pretty far down. She had a lot of cleavage. She sat down at the bar and she ordered a beer. And while she was sitting there and before the beer came, my anxiety started ramping up. And I was like, why would I be anxious in here? I like coming here. This is a treat. I was really confused. The bartender brought her beer, and my anxiety was just shooting up. And I'm like, what is going on? And she suddenly got up from the bar, left her beer there, and walked away. And then I got it. She had been looking around at all the men, and she had her blouse pretty far unbuttoned, and none of the men were paying attention to her. And I think it was her anxiety that I was feeling. And the second I realized that it was likely her anxiety over her own, maybe she really needed to find a man, or she needed male attention in those moments. The second I realized that it was possibly her anxiety, my anxiety was gone, because indeed it was hers. And from there on out, whenever my feeling state changed quite suddenly, I would question whether I was picking up another person's feelings. So over time, I stopped literally feeling other people's feelings. I'm now aware of other people's feelings as part of the external world, but as part of my inner sensing. And I can shift between awareness of my inner state and awareness of my outer state pretty fluidly now. And you can learn that too. I wish that we could learn that in school. I wish we could learn how to meditate and direct our focus either inward or outward. You likely do it already, but as you notice this ability, you will develop it further. So over this weekend, the 4th of July weekend, there might be a lot of stimulation in your external world. Be sure to take some time to check in with your internal world. Check in to notice how you are feeling. And notice if perhaps you're doing something that you thought would be enjoyable. Notice if indeed it is enjoyable. Notice if you're doing something you think will be satisfying. Notice if indeed it is satisfying. Sometimes we might eat more, for instance, or drink more because the situation really isn't satisfying. I remember a t-shirt I saw a long time ago. It said, "I drink to make other people more interesting." So just watch what happens over this holiday weekend. Notice how you navigate between the inner world and outer world. Notice if you are taking something from the outer world, taking it in, and supposing that it is your own state. For instance, there could be some chaos over the weekend. Maybe just the disorder that comes with a big party, or the disorder that comes with a group of people watching fireworks, the people getting into the area or leaving the area, that kind of disorder. And notice if that creates disorder in your inner sense of things, or if you can be simply aware and objective. What I've decided one aspect of enlightenment is simply being able to observe more and more and not reacting, not taking it on or taking it in. All right. Have a wonderful holiday weekend. Thank you for joining me. And whether you're joining me live, and I appreciate you, the person who's on here, or whether you're joining me via recording, I appreciate you. Happy 4th.